speaking to the man, of course, you do know, Twalib Mbarak is the new CEO of the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, was sworn in just this afternoon. And tonight we're speaking to the now immediate former man at the helm of the Secretariat of this Anti-Graft Commission, Halakhe Waqo. Thank you for speaking with us tonight. What would be the highlights for you, the war on graft over the last 6 years, with yourself at the helm of the Eacc?
Thank you very much, and thank you for inviting me to highlight on the processes that we've gone through in the over the last 6 years at the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission. In first place, I want to state that the 6 years that I have served at the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission have shown me a lot of lessons. One, you do a lot of work, you see a lot of issues around, but you will still see more and more demand as you progress. But within that context, within that environment, particularly the social, political and economic context, we did quite a lot in progressing. What Kenyans know, or what the people of Kenya expect of the Eacc largely is a section of the mandate of the Commission, that of enforcing the law, particularly investigations and prosecution of corruption cases. But what the law says is that, yes, that's part of it, but assets recovery becomes a very critical mandate, and above all, public education and prevention of corruption forms a bigger chunk of the fight against corruption. So while we map out all this, the strategies that we have deployed definitely addressed all those areas, and therefore, in as far as the critical thing of investigation is concerned, the Commission undertook quite a number of investigations and achieved quite a lot by also seeing through many of the cases that have been taken to court, concluded, and securing of conviction to a very high extent. And what you also need to know is that on average, we've been getting about 8,000 complaints or reports in a particular year. And
how many of those are you able to resolve, or at least say hand over for prosecution when that happens in the courts?
Out of the 8,000, most of the times about half may just be matters for other agencies, so that we refer them elsewhere, and out of the other half, maybe priority cases could land to be about 400 to 500 numbers, and that is what we take up for investigations.
All right. So you've talked about, awareness and of course prosecution of, or rather, handing those over to the DPP for prosecution in that matter. But yet there's still such a huge frustration with the war on graft in this country from all citizens, including the president himself. His remarks on this are very well known in this country. He, seemingly put up his hands and said, "I have given everybody what they need." And even coupled with that frustration, we've then seen what appeared to be a fractious relationship between the Eacc and the DPP and the DCI on one end, with them seemingly, doing a lot of collaboration at the exclusion of the Eacc. And this was all under your tenure.
Thank you very much. First of all, corruption is a global problem. And we interact with our peers in our region, our peers globally, and the frustration, the noise, the fight is global, and whether it is at our standards here locally or the global standards, the fight is always put at the gears of scaling up from the current stage to the next. So it's nothing unique to us, and therefore the fight against corruption has to pick that tone and has to move from the current situation to another. So that is a fact that everybody must be alive to. But when you talk about based on the same how corruption has been fought in the recent days, and particularly mentioning agencies like the DCI and the DPP and the rest, I want to be very clear on one fact. that we have no acrimony or competition that is sometimes put forward through media and some pronouncements that I hear. One, the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission is a constitutional independent institution with its own mandate, does not wait for anybody's instruction to undertake its obligation. But it is expected that within its mandate, within the definition of the law and the mandate assigned to it through Article 79 of the Constitution, the Commission has very weighty responsibility. Okay. And therefore, all these issues that you see is definitely within the knowledge of the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission.
All right, the knowledge, but perhaps not the impetus, because we have seen, allow me, we've seen a great impetus once we had a new person at the helm of the DPP and George Kinoti at the DCI. In fact, NYS, Kenya Power, Kenya Pipeline, Kenya Bureau of Standards, KRA, NHIF. While you say that has been your work and you have been aware, but why is it that we see such an impetus with these two new office holders and perhaps didn't see the same sort of aggressive push before the two came into office, and now with the EACC?
Okay, for me, you see, I would love to talk about the EACC. And what I know is that the EACC has been churning out files, to go to court on a weekly basis, and after every 1 or 2 weeks, we would always be forwarding tens of files to the DPP. For example, in December alone, we forwarded 38 files to the DPP. Whichever publicity group chooses to publicize one particular case against the other is not our problem. Our problem is deal with the cases that come to us and forward as much. And you will hear that we will have, the EACC, now that I'm not there, will have many more files in the next 1 week going to the DPP in their hands. So it is not lost to us that when the files or the cases that are investigated by the EACC are concluded, they needed to be expeditiously forwarded to the office of the DPP to process further for the purposes of prosecuting in court. So for us, the tempo has been high. And I want to tell you one thing. In the last 6 years, I know how many cases have gone to court from the EACC investigations. I know how many cases have been concluded in court from the matters that have been filed. Yes, of course. Yes. For example, in 2013, my first year there, because of the history, the transformation that was in place, the changes there were, we had only one case concluded in court. But of course, the case's conclusion that I'm talking about in court is beyond the control of the office of the DPP and also ourselves. In 2014-15, a bit of scale up. By 2015, we had 25 cases concluded. In the last 2 years and a half, we had 99 cases concluded in court. And
concluded in convictions out of those?
Out of 99, 77 ended up in convictions.
Okay.
77 percentage, if you look at that, rating to 78%. And therefore, for us, the EACC has been work and produce. And any detraction, any noise here and there which would mislead our process was not something that was prioritized.
I would like to ask this. This is a debate that has been in the public domain about the mandate of the EACC, the DPP and the DCI. Do you think there's an overlap in the mandate? I mean, now you can speak on your reflections, having worked there for the last 6 years.
Yes.
You know, graft being a criminal, an economic crime. In fact, the vice chair said, and I quote, economic crimes cases should be solely investigated by the EACC, and the ODPP and police should deal with criminal cases alone. In fact, she went on to cast some doubt on the police, saying in every integrity survey, the police is always on top on matters of corruption, and that means they cannot be trusted to fight graft. Do you think, now reflecting backwards, that there's perhaps an overlap of the mandate? I mean, corruption is criminal. It's also an economic crime. What are your thoughts now as you leave?
First of all, there cannot be an overlap between the mandate of the investigating agencies and the prosecuting sole prosecuting agency, the office of the DPP. So that cannot be. Number two, the business or the mandate of the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission is restricted to the economic crimes business. And therefore, the role of EACC is to investigate economic crimes, to trace and track stolen assets and return to the rightful owners or the government departments where they are stolen from. And so this is a very clear mandate. And then looking at ethical breaches based on Article 79. Now, the DCI has a mandate to investigate many more kinds of crimes in this country. They have actually very many more penal issues and the rest. So I will not say there is an overlap or a problem. But let me tell you one thing. Even globally, in many countries, many jurisdictions, the UK has quite a number of agencies investigating all these crimes jointly. There is a Serious Fraud Office. There is the National Crimes Agency. There is the Scotland Yard, and many more. And nobody talks about overlap. South Africa at one point had 19 agencies fighting corruption. Nigeria has 2 commissions as we sit here today. So the business of overlap cannot arise because there is even no shortage of problems. The number of complaints you find in a day, the number of...
But yet we do see the DCI investigating a number of these cases.
There's no problem. They can even investigate a few more if they have the capacity to do. That's why I'm telling you. That's why I'm telling you. I'm telling you.
A different side from what the
I am telling you this. Let me speak my mind and let me speak my experience. Global experience is that there is no merit in restricting one institution to one thing, and yet you say that the problem is even growing by the day. So EACC has its mandate clearly cut out, and I believe that is what we have been pursuing, and that is what they are going to pursue henceforth, and I stand by them and support them in the tempo that they have picked.
Okay, quick one.
As they progress.
As we finish, is the judiciary the weak link? Today, Chief Justice David Maraga said, bring us cases which have sound evidence, we will convict. If you bring us weak cases, we will not. And time and again, the focus has always been on the evidence gathering process, and that has been, a challenge. So not necessarily even just at the cases the EACC has brought, but even in the recent cases of NYS, we've seen some suspects. Charges have been dropped, others they say have turned state's witness. But the problem in this country has always been the evidence gathering process and whether that meets the threshold for conviction. So is it the investigating authorities or the judiciary that's the weak link?
Okay, first, let me respond to that by saying this. The justice chain is a circle that runs across various organizations. And particularly the stakeholders in the process of achieving that begin with the investigative agencies. It goes to the prosecuting agency, where in our country is one, and then the adjudicating agency, which is the judiciary in the country, but also the public and other stakeholders by coming forward with information as another set of group, the stakeholders outside the justice chain, which you expect to perform all these duties as defined in law. But I want to tell you one thing. It's not been easy to work in this area of fighting corruption. At different times, there are issues that are raised by different organizations against each other. Now, as EACC, as an investigator, one of my experiences is that there have quite been a number of times where the judiciary or other participants have been a hindrance in the process, stopping investigations, stopping prosecutions, taking too long to conclude cases, dismissing cases where the facts and evidence have been very sufficient in our mind by even global standards. And sometimes, of course, they also throw back the ball by saying, but there is this and that loophole, there is this technicality and this and that. But all said and done, there's need for serious scaling up of how cases are handled by the judiciary.
All right, thank you. Halakhe Waqo, who's the immediate former CEO of the Eacc, his last day today, even as Twalib Mbarak takes on the mantle and takes on the baton in the fight against graft. Thank you very much for speaking with us on that. All right.